This was never supposed to reach everyone, and deep down you already feel that. There is a reason your chest tightened the moment these words found you. Because something inside you has been carrying exhaustion that nobody around you fully understands. You smile when people expect you to smile. You answer messages. You show up to work. You keep conversations going in grocery store aisles, parking lots, office hallways, coffee shops, and family dinners. But lately it has all started feeling strangely distant. Almost like your body is present while another part of you quietly drifts somewhere else. And at night, when the noise finally fades, you feel it the most. The silence, the overthinking, the strange ache that appears the second you are alone with your thoughts. You have tried distracting yourself from it. Long drives with the radio on low volume, scrolling through your phone past midnight, rewatching old videos, reopening conversations that should have stopped months ago. Yet somehow the feeling keeps returning. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly enough to follow you everywhere. And what makes this harder is that nobody can really see it happening. They think you are simply tired, stressed, busy. But this goes deeper than stress, doesn't it? Because lately you have started questioning things you used to feel sure about. Why certain doors closed so suddenly? Why some people slowly became strangers? Why opportunities disappeared right when you finally gathered the courage to move toward them? You told yourself maybe it was bad timing. Maybe you waited too long. Maybe you ruined something important without realizing it. And that thought has stayed with you longer than you admit. Especially during those late hours when the room is dark except for the glow from your phone sitting inches away from your face while you stare at a message you never sent. There was even a moment recently, maybe only a few nights ago, when you almost convinced yourself to stop caring altogether. To stop hoping. To stop looking for meaning in things that never seemed to change. But then something unusual happened. Maybe it was a random sentence you overheard at exactly the right time. Maybe it was a memory that suddenly came back for no reason while sitting at a red light. Maybe it was the strange calm that appeared in the middle of an anxious night when everything inside you should have been falling apart. You noticed it, even if you tried pretending you didn't. Because part of you already knows this season of silence is not happening by accident. Something has been unfolding quietly underneath all the disappointment. Underneath all the waiting, underneath every unanswered question you carry into the early hours of the morning. And the truth is, what you thought was distance may have actually been something staying closer to you than you realized. You have been trying so hard to convince yourself that you are fine, but exhaustion has a way of revealing itself in small moments nobody else notices. It shows up when your alarm goes off in the morning and you stare at the ceiling for an extra 30 seconds because getting out of bed feels heavier than it used to. It shows up when you drive home after a long day and sit in the parking lot with the engine still running, because going inside feels emotionally harder than staying alone in the dark for just one more minute. And lately, there has been another feeling underneath all of it, something harder to explain. It is almost like your life has been quietly slowing down while everyone else keeps moving forward. People around you celebrate milestones, relationships, promotions, plans, new beginnings, while you sit there wondering why everything connected to your own life feels delayed, paused, or strangely unfinished. You try not to let it bother you. You told yourself everybody struggles sometimes. Everybody waits. Everybody feels lost now and then. But this has felt different. More personal. Because deep down you started carrying the fear that maybe you missed your moment. Maybe the opportunity that could have changed your life already passed by while you were too uncertain, too tired, or too distracted to recognize it. That thought followed you more than anyone knows. Especially during quiet nights when old memories suddenly replay in your head without warning. Moments you wish you handled differently. Conversations you keep mentally rewriting. Decisions you second-guess months later while standing in line at a gas station or staring out the kitchen window after midnight. And the strange part is, even while all this confusion kept building inside you, little things kept happening that made it impossible to fully give up. A song playing at the exact moment you needed comfort. A stranger saying something oddly specific that stayed with you all day. A sudden feeling of calm appearing in the middle of panic for no logical reason. It was subtle, almost easy to dismiss, but it kept happening often enough that part of you quietly noticed. There was even a night recently when you reached for your phone to send a message to someone you missed terribly, someone you thought could fix the emptiness you had been carrying. Your thumb hovered over the screen for nearly a minute before something inside you stopped. Not fear, not pride, just a quiet hesitation you could not explain. Later that same night, sitting alone with only the glow from the television flickering across the room, you felt this strange emotional pull telling you not to chase what already left. And for the first time in a long while, you did not feel abandoned in that silence. You just felt observed somehow, as if something unseen understood exactly how close you were to reopening wounds that had barely started healing. That is what has been unsettling you lately. Not only the waiting, but the growing realization that maybe your life has not been as random as you once believed. Maybe some things fell apart because they were supposed to. Maybe some doors stayed closed because you were never meant to walk through them exhausted, desperate, and emotionally unprepared. And maybe the silence surrounding you right now is hiding more intention than you realize. There is a reason you have felt emotionally out of place lately, and it is not because you are weak or broken. Something inside you has started noticing what your mind spent years trying to ignore. You cannot move through life the same way anymore. Even ordinary moments have started carrying strange emotional weight. Sitting in traffic feels different now. Walking through crowded stores feels different. Even conversations with people you have known for years sometimes leave you feeling disconnected, as if part of you is quietly standing outside the moment watching everything happen from a distance. At first you blamed stress, then burnout, then exhaustion. But the feeling stayed, and slowly you began realizing it was not only about being tired. It was about becoming aware. A few nights ago, you were lying awake long after midnight, scrolling through old photos you had not looked at in months. You stopped on one picture longer than the others. In that moment, you remembered who you were when that photo was taken. The hope you carried back then. The plans you thought would happen by now. The version of yourself that believed things would finally get easier. And for a second, grief hit you unexpectedly because life did not unfold the way you imagined. Some people disappeared. Some promises dissolved quietly over time. Some prayers seemed to echo into silence without response. You sat there staring at the screen while the room stayed completely still around you. And the hardest part was realizing how alone you had felt carrying all of it. But then something unusual happened again. Not dramatic, not loud, just a feeling. A sudden warmth in the middle of all that heaviness. Almost like your thoughts had briefly stopped spiraling long enough for something calmer to reach you. And the strange thing is, you did not feel judged in that moment. You did not feel condemned for doubting, questioning, or feeling tired. You just felt understood, completely and quietly understood. That feeling stayed with you the next morning too. Driving to work with coffee sitting untouched in the cup holder, sunlight barely breaking through gray clouds, you caught yourself noticing little things you normally ignore. The timing of certain conversations. The way one sentence from a coworker answered a thought you never spoke aloud. The sudden urge to take a different road home even though it added 10 extra minutes to the drive. None of it made complete sense yet, but deep down you started feeling like your life was being gently redirected in ways you could not fully explain. And honestly, that realization frightened you a little because part of you still wants certainty. You still want clear answers. You want to know why things had to hurt this much before anything started making sense. Why the waiting lasted so long. Why the silence felt endless. But what if clarity was never supposed to arrive all at once? What if the reason everything feels emotionally uncomfortable right now is because you are beginning to see your past differently than before? Because slowly, almost painfully slowly, you are starting to realize that some of the things you called rejection may not have been rejection at all. They may have been interruptions, redirections, quiet forms of protection happening while you were too hurt to recognize them. The hardest part about this season has not been the waiting itself. It has been watching yourself slowly change inside it. You used to chase answers immediately. You used to force conversations, force clarity, force connections to stay alive even after they started fading. But lately something inside you has grown tired of running after what keeps pulling away. And that change did not happen overnight. It happened quietly through disappointment after disappointment. Through mornings where you woke up already emotionally drained before the day even started. Through nights when you replayed the same thoughts so many times they stopped sounding like thoughts and started sounding like background noise living permanently in your mind. There was a moment recently that revealed more than you realized at the time. You were sitting across from someone who once meant everything to you, listening to them speak, while feeling an unexpected emptiness settle into your chest. Not anger, not resentment, just the strange awareness that something no longer fit the way it once did. Their voice sounded familiar, but your spirit felt distant, almost like part of you already knew this connection could not follow you where your life was heading next. That realization unsettled you for days afterward because you wanted certainty. You wanted a clear reason for why certain relationships, plans, and dreams suddenly felt emotionally out of reach. Instead, all you received was silence. But silence has a way of revealing truth slowly. Little by little, you started noticing how exhausted you became every time you tried to hold on to something that no longer brought peace into your life. Even your body responded differently now. Sleepless nights, tightness in your chest before opening certain messages, a heavy feeling in your stomach whenever you forced yourself into places and conversations that no longer felt genuine. At first, you ignored those feelings because you thought strength meant enduring everything without questioning it. But what if those reactions were not weakness? What if they were warnings? Not loud warnings meant to frighten you, but quiet signals trying to guide you somewhere healthier before you broke yourself emotionally, trying to preserve things that were already ending. That possibility has been lingering around you more often lately. You feel it during random moments when life briefly slows down enough for your thoughts to catch up with your heart. Driving home beneath streetlights after a long shift. Standing alone in the kitchen while the microwave hums softly in the background. Waking unexpectedly at 3 in the morning with a strange feeling that something inside your life is shifting even though nothing outwardly looks different yet. And maybe that is why this season feels so emotionally confusing. Part of you still mourns what did not happen. The future you imagined. The people you thought would stay. The version of yourself that believed life would unfold in a straight line if you simply worked hard enough and loved deeply enough. But another part of you is beginning to sense that not every closed door was meant to hurt you. Some were meant to stop you from walking into seasons that would have emptied you completely. And even though you cannot fully explain it yet, there is a growing feeling inside you that something has been quietly intervening in your life for much longer than you realized. You are beginning to realize that the deepest exhaustion in your life did not come from working too hard. It came from trying to hold together things that were quietly falling apart long before you admitted it to yourself. That truth has followed you everywhere lately. In the silence of your apartment after long days. In the empty feeling that appears after conversations that used to comfort you. In the strange sadness that settles over you while watching other people laugh and move forward so easily, while your own heart still feels stuck somewhere between hope and disappointment. And what makes this harder is that nobody around you fully understands how long you have been carrying this emotional weight alone. They see the surface version of you, the responsible version, the calm version, the one who keeps functioning no matter how tired life becomes. But they do not see the quiet battles happening underneath all of it. They do not see how often you second-guess yourself now. How many times you almost reached out to people who no longer truly cared just because loneliness can make even temporary comfort feel tempting. A few evenings ago, you found yourself scrolling through old messages again, reading words that once made you feel chosen, important, safe. For a moment, you almost convinced yourself to reopen that door. You even started typing a message before stopping halfway through. And as simple as that moment sounds, something about it felt strangely heavy, like your spirit itself was resisting what your emotions desperately wanted. You sat there in the dim light of the room with the television playing quietly in the background, staring at the unfinished message while your chest tightened with confusion. Because part of you missed the familiarity, the connection, the possibility that maybe things could still return to the way they once were. But another part of you felt something deeper. A quiet knowing that returning backward would cost you more than being alone ever could. That realization frightened you because it forced you to admit how much you have changed through all this waiting. You are not the same person who once begged life to keep certain people close at any cost. Pain has sharpened your awareness. Silence has deepened your instincts. And disappointment has slowly taught you that not everything familiar is healthy for your future. Still, even knowing this emotionally does not make the process easier. There are nights when the loneliness still feels unbearable. Nights when you wonder why the people you would have done anything for became distant so easily. Nights when the future feels so unclear that even getting through the next few weeks seems emotionally overwhelming. But right in the middle of those moments, Something keeps interrupting your despair before it fully consumes you. Not through dramatic miracles or loud revelations, but through subtle moments that feel almost impossible to explain logically. A sudden sense of calm during panic. A strange feeling telling you to wait a little longer. An unshakable pull away from decisions that would have reopened old wounds. It is almost as if something has been standing quietly between you and the choices that would have broken you further. And deep down, whether you fully understand it yet or not, you are starting to sense that some of the pain you blamed on abandonment may actually have been protection arriving in a form you did not recognize at the time. What unsettles you the most is not that life changed. It is that something inside you changed before life ever did. You started noticing it in the way certain places no longer felt comforting. Restaurants you once loved now feel emotionally empty. Conversations that used to energize you suddenly leave you drained for hours afterward. Even the music you listen to during late night drives feels different now, as if your heart has quietly outgrown versions of yourself that your mind is still trying to hold on to. And this shift has created a strange conflict inside you, because one part of you still wants to return to what felt familiar, while another part knows you cannot keep shrinking yourself just to preserve connections that were slowly suffocating your peace. A few days ago, while sitting alone during your lunch break, you watched people moving through their normal routines outside the window and suddenly realized how disconnected you have felt from your own life lately. Not because you stopped caring, but because somewhere along the way you became emotionally exhausted from carrying expectations that never fully belonged to you. Expectations to keep everyone comfortable. Expectations to stay available even when you were running empty. Expectations to continue forcing paths that your spirit kept resisting. That realization hit harder than you expected because it exposed how long you ignored your own inner warnings. There were moments you felt uneasy around certain people long before things collapsed. Moments your chest tightened before saying yes to things that later drained you emotionally. Moments you sensed something was off, but convinced yourself you were simply overthinking because you did not want to disappoint anyone or face another loss. But now, looking back honestly, you can see the pattern more clearly. The uneasiness was never random. The delays were not meaningless. Even the doors that closed suddenly often happened right before situations that would have pulled you deeper into emotional chaos. That truth is becoming impossible to ignore now, especially because every time you come close to forcing your way backward, something quietly interrupts you again. Sometimes it is exhaustion. Sometimes it is timing. Sometimes it is an unexpected feeling that stops you moments before making a decision you would later regret. And even though you still do not fully understand it, there is a growing awareness inside you that not all interruptions in life are punishments. Some arrive to preserve parts of you that are too valuable to lose. The difficult part is that protection rarely feels comforting while it is happening. Most of the time it feels lonely, confusing, even unfair. You sit awake wondering why things keep slipping away while everyone else seems to receive what they prayed for so easily. You question yourself constantly, wondering if you somehow caused all this distance. Wondering if you are being forgotten while the world keeps moving without you. But late at night, when everything becomes still enough for honesty to surface, another feeling keeps appearing underneath the fear. A quiet sense that you are not being abandoned at all. That somehow, in ways too subtle to explain logically, you are being guided away from things your heart would have chosen out of desperation rather than peace. And maybe that is why this season has felt so emotionally intense. Because deep down, you are beginning to realize that losing certain things may have been the first step toward finally finding yourself again. You are standing in the middle of a turning point even if your life does not look different yet. And that is what makes this season so difficult to explain to anyone else. From the outside, everything appears ordinary. You still wake up, go to work, answer people politely, finish responsibilities, and move through familiar routines. But internally, something has been unraveling and rebuilding at the same time. The old ways you coped no longer comfort you. The distractions that once kept you numb are losing their effect. Even your loneliness feels different now, deeper somehow, as if it is no longer asking for attention from other people, but asking for honesty from yourself. A few nights ago, you drove farther than usual after work because going home immediately felt emotionally unbearable. The roads were mostly empty, streetlights reflecting softly against the windshield, while music played low enough that your thoughts stayed louder than the lyrics. And somewhere during that drive, you finally admitted something you had been avoiding for months. You were not only grieving people, you were grieving versions of yourself that never became reality. The future you pictured, the relationship you believed would last, the life you kept delaying your own healing for because you thought eventually everything would come together if you just waited long enough. That realization sat heavily in your chest, because deep down you knew how much of yourself you sacrificed trying to preserve things that were already slipping away. You ignored your instincts repeatedly because loneliness made temporary closeness feel safer than starting over. You accepted emotional confusion because uncertainty felt less painful than complete loss. But now something inside you refuses to settle for emotional survival anymore. That is why this season feels so uncomfortable. Your heart is no longer allowing you to return to places that once kept you emotionally stuck. Even when you try, something interrupts it. Plans fall through unexpectedly. Conversations lose momentum. Timing shifts at the last minute. At first you thought life was working against you. But lately another possibility has started haunting your thoughts late at night. What if those interruptions were actually saving you from choices you would have made from fear rather than peace? Because when you look back honestly, some of the moments that disappointed you most also quietly protected you from situations that would have drained what little emotional strength you still had left. There was a connection you once begged to keep alive that now clearly would have destroyed your sense of self if it continued. There was an opportunity you felt devastated to lose that later revealed problems you could not see at the time. There were nights you cried over delayed answers without realizing those delays were creating distance between you and environments that would have consumed your peace completely. And this realization changes everything because it forces you to confront a painful truth. Not every unanswered prayer was rejection. Not every silence meant absence. Sometimes the very thing you interpreted as abandonment was the beginning of protection quietly entering your life before you were emotionally ready to recognize it. That is why your spirit has felt so restless lately. Part of you is waking up to the possibility that you were never as alone in your suffering as you believed. Something unseen has been guiding your life through interruptions, delays, closed doors, strange timing, and quiet instincts for much longer than you realized. The truth you have been slowly approaching is uncomfortable because it changes the meaning of everything you suffered through. It means the nights you thought you were being ignored may have actually been the nights you were being protected most. And once that realization enters your mind, it becomes impossible to see your past the same way again. Think about how many times you almost forced yourself into situations that felt wrong deep inside. How many times you chased people who only valued parts of you while leaving the rest emotionally starving. How many times you begged silently for clarity while your entire body reacted with exhaustion every time you moved closer to something your spirit knew was not meant to stay. You called it anxiety. You called it fear. But what if it was discernment growing inside you before you had language for it? A memory came back to you recently while standing in the kitchen, unable to sleep. You remembered that one evening months ago when everything almost went differently. You had plans to meet someone you believed would finally bring stability back into your life. You spent hours preparing emotionally for that night, convincing yourself this could be the moment things finally shifted. But at the last second, the plans fell apart unexpectedly. At the time, you felt devastated, rejected, humiliated even. You drove home replaying every possible reason you were not enough while the city lights blurred outside your window through exhausted eyes. But later, weeks later, you discovered truths about that situation that completely changed your understanding of what happened. Things you were never supposed to carry. Patterns you were never supposed to become trapped inside. And suddenly the disappointment that once broke your heart started looking different. Not cruel, not random, just interrupted before it could damage you more deeply. That memory has stayed close to you lately because similar patterns keep appearing throughout your life. Delays that later made sense. Closed doors that quietly saved your peace. Sudden emotional distance from people right before their true intentions became visible. The more honestly you look back, the harder it becomes to deny that something has been guiding you through timing itself. Not loudly, not through dramatic signs, but through instincts, exhaustion, discomfort, hesitation, and moments where life simply refused to move forward no matter how desperately you wanted it to. And perhaps the hardest thing to accept is this. You spent so long asking why everything kept falling apart without realizing some things were collapsing because they could not continue into the version of your life that is slowly forming now. That is why your spirit feels caught between grief and relief lately. Grief for what you lost. Relief for what no longer has power to consume you. You still miss certain people. You still replay certain memories during lonely nights when the silence feels heavier than usual. But underneath that sadness, another feeling has quietly begun growing stronger. A feeling that maybe every painful interruption carried purpose you could not see at the time. Because if those doors had opened when you begged for them to, you would have walked through them emotionally exhausted, desperate for love, desperate for validation, desperate to escape loneliness at any cost. And deep down, you are beginning to understand that some forms of protection arrive by preventing us from receiving exactly what we thought we wanted. There is a part of you that still struggles to believe any of this could have meaning because pain has a way of convincing people they were forgotten. That is why the loneliness hit you so hard these past few months. Not only because people changed or opportunities disappeared, but because somewhere inside you began wondering if your life was quietly passing by while everyone else moved towards something brighter. You watched others build relationships, start families, celebrate milestones, and speak confidently about their future while you sat alone some nights feeling emotionally suspended between what used to be and what has not arrived yet. And the silence between those two places almost broke you. There were mornings when even simple things felt heavier than they should have. Getting dressed for work, replying to texts, pretending to care about conversations while your thoughts drifted somewhere far away. You became skilled at hiding exhaustion behind normal routines. Nobody saw the nights you sat on the edge of your bed staring into darkness, asking yourself how life became so emotionally complicated. Nobody heard the private moments when you questioned whether all the waiting was turning you into someone colder, more distant, harder to recognize. But even during your worst moments, something kept refusing to let you collapse completely. That is the part you cannot explain logically. Because honestly, there were nights when giving up emotionally would have been easier. Easier than continuing to hope. Easier than continuing to wait for answers that never seemed to come. Yet somehow, right when your thoughts spiraled too deeply, something small would interrupt the darkness. A sudden memory reminding you who you used to be before disappointment hardened your heart. A peaceful feeling arriving for no clear reason while driving alone beneath quiet streetlights. A random sentence from a stranger that felt strangely personal, almost as if it arrived directly into the middle of thoughts you never spoke aloud. These moments seemed insignificant individually, but together they formed a pattern impossible to fully ignore. And now you are beginning to understand why. Because the season you thought was destroying you was actually separating you from environments, people, and emotional attachments that could not continue into the life you are slowly becoming ready for. That is why everything felt so unstable. Not because your life was falling apart without purpose, but because parts of it were being removed before they could consume more of your peace. Think about how many times you tried forcing yourself to stay emotionally available to people who only appreciated you when you were useful. Think about how often you ignored your own exhaustion because you feared being abandoned if you finally said no. Think about how many dreams you delayed because you kept prioritizing relationships and expectations that quietly drained your spirit. Looking back now, you can finally see what your pain was trying to reveal all along. You were losing yourself while trying to preserve connections that were never built to protect your peace. And perhaps that is why this season of isolation became necessary. Because without the silence, without the distance, without the delays, you never would have slowed down long enough to recognize how deeply exhausted your soul had become. The loneliness was painful, yes, but it also removed distractions long enough for you to finally hear the quiet truth growing inside you. You were never being punished. You were being pulled away from things that no longer aligned with the life waiting for you ahead. Something inside you has already started changing even though your external life still looks unfinished. And that is the part nobody around you can fully understand. They only see the visible delays, the plans that did not happen yet, the relationships that faded, the opportunities that slipped away. But they cannot see the deeper shift quietly taking place beneath all of it. They cannot see how your spirit has slowly stopped chasing things that once controlled your emotions completely. Months ago, silence used to terrify you. An unanswered message could ruin your entire night. A delayed response could send your mind into spirals of self-doubt. The thought of losing someone could make you abandon your own peace just to keep them close. But now, even though loneliness still hurts sometimes, something about you responds differently than before. You pause more. You observe more. You no longer rush toward every emotional impulse the way you once did. And honestly, that change was born through pain. Through all the nights you sat alone, trying to understand why your life kept slowing down while everyone else seemed to move forward effortlessly. A memory returned to you recently while walking through a grocery store late in the evening. You saw a couple laughing together near the checkout line and suddenly felt that familiar ache rise inside your chest again. The ache of wondering why connection seemed so easy for everyone except you. For a moment, your thoughts started drifting backward toward old wounds, old disappointments, old questions you thought you buried already. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of collapsing emotionally the way you once would have, you felt a strange calm settle over you. Not because the loneliness disappeared, but because deep down you suddenly understood something important. You were no longer desperate to be chosen by people who could not see your value clearly. That realization almost startled you because it revealed how much healing had quietly happened underneath all the waiting. You are beginning to understand that this entire season was never only about losing people or enduring delays. It was about transforming the way you see yourself. Because before all this silence, you measured your worth through closeness, attention, reassurance, and external validation. You gave pieces of yourself away too easily because you feared being left behind emotionally. But the distance forced you inward. The waiting forced honesty. The loneliness forced you to confront parts of yourself you spent years avoiding. And slowly, through all the confusion, your instincts became sharper. Your peace became more valuable. Your tolerance for emotionally draining environments became weaker. That is why certain things no longer fit the way they once did. Not because you became cold, but because your spirit can no longer comfortably remain where your peace constantly disappears. And perhaps that is the clearest sign that something unseen has been working quietly in your life this entire time. Because without realizing it, you have already started becoming someone different. Someone less willing to settle for confusion disguised as love. Someone less willing to abandon inner peace for temporary comfort. Someone who finally understands that not every closed door was meant to hurt you. Some were meant to protect the version of you that is only now beginning to emerge from all this silence stronger, wiser, and far more aware than before. You spent so much of your life believing peace would arrive after everything finally made sense. But lately you have started discovering something different. Peace has been appearing in small moments before the answers ever arrived. Quiet moments. Unexpected moments. Like standing outside just after sunset, feeling the cool air against your skin, and suddenly realizing your thoughts are not racing for once. Or waking up in the middle of the night, expecting anxiety to hit you the way it always used to, only to find a strange stillness waiting there instead. Those moments may seem small to other people, but to you they feel almost impossible because they arrived during a season that should have destroyed your hope completely. And maybe that is the clearest sign that something deeper has been happening all along. Because your circumstances did not suddenly become perfect. Some questions still remain unanswered. Certain relationships still ended without closure. Some dreams are still delayed. Yet despite all of that, your spirit has slowly stopped panicking the way it once did. You are beginning to trust the pauses more. Beginning to recognize the difference between loneliness and preparation. Beginning to understand that silence can hold presence too. A few mornings ago, you sat quietly with coffee growing cold beside you while sunlight slowly filled the room. And for the first time in a long while, you stopped trying to mentally fix your entire future at once. You simply sat there breathing in the stillness. No desperate overthinking. No replaying old conversations. No searching for signs that someone might come back and finally choose you correctly. Just stillness. And even though nothing dramatic happened in that moment, something inside you shifted gently. You realized how exhausted you had become from trying to control outcomes that were never truly yours to carry. That exhaustion had shaped so much of your life without you noticing. It made you cling to uncertainty longer than necessary. It made you confuse emotional intensity with genuine connection. It made you chase reassurance from people who were never emotionally stable enough to provide it consistently. But the silence changed you. The waiting changed you. The losses changed you. Slowly, painfully, but honestly. And now when you look backward, you can finally see how many times your spirit was trying to protect you before your mind understood what was happening. The tight feeling in your chest before certain conversations. The exhaustion after being around people who constantly drained your peace. The unexplained hesitation before making choices that later revealed hidden consequences. None of those moments were meaningless. They were quiet guidance arriving in forms subtle enough that only now, after everything, you can fully recognize them. And perhaps that is why this season became necessary. Because if life had unfolded exactly the way you begged for in the beginning, you never would have learned how to hear the difference between emotional desperation and inner peace. You never would have discovered how deeply your worth depended on outside validation. You never would have recognized that some forms of love were quietly destroying your spirit while convincing you to stay through confusion and exhaustion. But now you are becoming aware in a different way. Not louder, not harder, just clearer. Clear enough to realize that the silence you feared so deeply may have been creating space for a more honest version of yourself to finally emerge. You are finally reaching the point where your spirit is no longer asking the same desperate questions every night. And that change matters more than you realize. Not because all the pain suddenly disappeared, but because you are beginning to understand that healing often arrives quietly long before circumstances fully change. There was a time when every delay felt personal to you. Every silence felt like proof that you had been forgotten. Every closed door felt like a judgment against your worth. But now, after everything you have walked through, something inside you sees those moments differently. You are starting to recognize that some things ended because they were never capable of carrying the weight of who you are becoming. A few evenings ago, you found yourself sitting alone again, but this time the loneliness felt different, softer somehow. You were watching rain move slowly against the windows while the room stayed quiet except for the low hum of a lamp in the corner. Normally, your mind would have filled that silence with old memories, regrets, unanswered questions, and fears about the future. But instead, you just sat there calmly, almost surprised by the stillness inside your own chest. And in that moment, you realized something important. You are no longer trying to force your life to unfold according to old expectations. You are no longer chasing closure from people who could not give it. You are no longer begging emotionally for what continually damaged your peace. That realization did not arrive dramatically. It arrived gently, like dawn slowly entering a dark room. And maybe that is how real transformation always happens. Quietly, gradually, through hundreds of small moments nobody else sees. Through every lonely drive home where you chose not to reopen old wounds. Through every night you resisted reaching backward toward things that no longer aligned with your peace. Through every painful delay that slowly taught you how to trust what your spirit feels instead of only what your emotions fear losing. Looking back now, you can see how carefully your life was being redirected even when you thought everything was falling apart. The relationships that collapsed were already weakening your spirit. The opportunities that disappeared would have exhausted you in ways you could not see yet. The unanswered prayers created space for deeper clarity to emerge inside you first. And perhaps the greatest shift of all is this. You are no longer measuring your worth through who stays, who leaves, who responds, or who chooses you. Something inside you has become steadier than that, stronger than that, more peaceful than that. The silence that once terrified you has slowly become a place where you can finally hear yourself clearly again. That does not mean there are no difficult nights left. There are still moments when old memories return unexpectedly. Still moments when loneliness briefly touches your heart while watching other people move through life with certainty. But even then, something deeper now remains underneath the sadness. A quiet knowing that your life has not been abandoned or forgotten. It has been unfolding carefully through timing you could not fully understand before. And maybe the reason everything slowed down was never to punish you. Maybe it was to help you become emotionally ready for a kind of peace you once would have overlooked while chasing everything that kept draining your soul. Maybe this entire season was never about losing everything you cared about. Maybe it was about finally learning what deserves access to your peace. That realization has been arriving slowly, almost quietly, through ordinary moments that most people would never notice. Through mornings when you wake up and realize your first thought is no longer about who left. Through evenings when the silence no longer feels like punishment, but feels almost protective somehow. Through small moments where you catch yourself breathing easier simply because you stopped fighting reality long enough to hear what your spirit has been trying to tell you all along. You were never meant to carry so much fear inside your heart. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of being forgotten. Fear that your future would never arrive unless you forced every door open yourself. But now you are beginning to understand something deeper. The life that is truly meant for you does not require you to betray your peace in order to keep it close. That is why certain things kept falling apart no matter how hard you tried to save them. Not because you failed, not because you were unwanted, but because your spirit was quietly being led away from environments that could no longer hold the version of you emerging through all this silence. Tonight, as everything grows quiet around you again, there may still be moments where sadness touches your heart unexpectedly. Certain memories may still return. Certain questions may still linger in the background of your mind. Healing does not erase every ache overnight, but something important has changed inside you now. You no longer feel completely lost within the waiting. You no longer believe every delay means rejection, and you no longer need constant reassurance to remind yourself that your life still has meaning even during uncertain seasons. A few hours from now, you may lie awake again listening to the low hum of the air conditioner, staring into darkness, while thoughts move slowly through your mind the way they always do late at night. But this time, maybe the silence will feel different. Maybe instead of panic, you will notice a strange calm sitting underneath everything. A feeling that somehow you are being carried through this season more carefully than you realized while living inside it. Because when you look back honestly now, too many things aligned quietly for your story to be random. Too many interruptions protected you from paths that would have drained your spirit completely. Too many moments of hesitation arrived exactly when you needed them most. And perhaps the clearest sign of all is the person you are becoming now. More aware, more honest with yourself, less desperate for what continually wounded your peace. Strong enough to sit alone without collapsing inside your own thoughts the way you once did. The answers may not have arrived all at once. The future may still look uncertain sometimes. But deep down, you are beginning to sense that your life has never truly been abandoned in the silence. Something unseen has been walking beside you through every delay, every closed door, every lonely night, and every moment you thought you had to survive completely on your own. And maybe that quiet presence was never trying to control your path loudly. Maybe it was only waiting for you to become still enough to finally notice it had been there the entire time.